बच्चे घरों को वापस आ गए, फिर आपका सारा ये कोई नहीं आएगा। किस तरह आप कहते हैं कोई नहीं आएगा?
November 1999, Lahore police is performing its duty as usual and check their mailbox and find a letter. A terrible confession. My count ends at 100. Here my mission is accomplished. My message will reach the whole world. I will make hundreds of mothers cry. I will send their children to the next world without a shroud. The letter contained a victim's name, address, and how he was killed. And how long did it take for the acid to dissolve his body, and finally a house address was given. 16B Ravi Road. Deputy Superintendent Tariq Kumbo reaches there with some officers. There is a person knocking on the door. 38-year-old Javed Iqbal. The police ask him some questions about the letter. Javed's attitude changes completely, and he puts a gun to his head and threatens the police that if they don't leave here, he will shoot himself. The police search the house without stopping him, and Bina goes there without asking him any more questions. They think it's a joke. Will this man kill anyone, and that too 100 children? The police have no idea that they are leaving behind the biggest serial killer in the history of Pakistan. In December 1999, the world came to know the name Javed Iqbal through a shocking letter sent to the police and the chief news editor of a Lahore newspaper, Kawar Naeem Hashmi. In this letter, Iqbal confessed to the rape and murder of 100 boys, aged between 6 and 16. His victims were primarily runaways or orphans, boys who lived on the streets of Lahore, making them easy prey for his monstrous acts. Imagine a world where innocent children disappear without a trace, only to be discovered as victims of one of the most chilling and methodical serial killers in history. This is not a tale from a horror movie, but the real-life story of Javed Iqbal, a man whose heinous crimes shocked an entire nation and continue to haunt it to this day. Stay tuned. Who is Javed Iqbal? Born in 1956, Javed Iqbal came from a wealthy family. He had 6 siblings, all boys, and his father was a trader, Muhammad Ali Mughal, with 2 villas. Iqbal studied at Islamia College in 1978 and later started his own business. However, he harbored a dark side that made him go on to become one of the most nightmarish killers the world has ever known. Here are a few haunting facts about Pakistan's most sadistic serial killer that will send chills down your spine. Javed Iqbal wasn't just an evil man, he was a cold, calculated individual with an extremely elaborate MO. After his first few kills, he decided it would be more convenient to lure his victims rather hunt them down. Since all of his victims are kids, from ages 6 to 16, Javed set up a video game arcade business. At the time, a gaming arcade was every child's favorite place to be at. Thus, the business venture proved to be a success for Javed, who would go on to play a twisted game of cat and mouse with the innocent children. He offered free tokens to young boys to gain their trust. Other times, he would drop money on the floor weight and watch a boy pick it up. Then, he would catch the thief and take him to the back room, where he would rape them. In his journal, Javed has admitted to letting go 1 or 2 boys, feeling bad for them. Others were not so fortunate, as he would take them to his place, strangling them to death and dumping their bodies someplace where no one will ever find them. One of the reasons why Javed was able to get away was his victim pool. Javed would stalk runaways and unaccounted children whom the police did not bother to look for. His accomplices, much like the infamous American serial killer Dean Arnold Corley, the Candyman, Javed Iqbal used children to lure his victims. Javed had 1 to 3 accomplices in total. Not willing to risk recruiting grown men who may go against him, Javed would brainwash young teen runaways to do his bidding. The man had a way of befriending children and gaining their trust. Thus, it was easy for him to find a few children that shared his evil vision. He and his accomplices lived together in a 3-bedroom flat. The 3 infamous accomplices who would join Javed's court trial were Sajid Ahmed, a 17-year-old boy, 15-year-old Muhammad Nadeem, sentenced to 182 years in prison for 13 murders, and 13-year-old Mohammed Sabir, sentenced to 63 years in prison. The cry of 100 mothers. Murder is a heinous crime. To commit it 100 times over is what makes Javed Iqbal truly a sadistic monster. However, it wasn't the police that stopped him from killing any more children. It was Javed himself after reaching his gruesome milestone. There was a reason behind the number of his victims and his insatiable bloodlust. According to sources, Javed had dark fantasies since childhood. Before he began his killing spree, Javed was arrested for sexual assaults. Despite his psychotic nature, Javed Iqbal was extremely close with his mother, who died during his incarceration at the time. "My mother cried for me. I wanted 100 mothers to cry for their children," Javed Iqbal said in his confession. The loss of his mother and the police's alleged brutality set him on a murderous path and setting out to do exactly what he promised himself. He even taunted authorities later on that he could have easily killed 500 or more children, but he stopped because he made a promise to himself to kill exactly 100 children, no more, no less. Confessions of a Serial Killer. Javed Iqbal's reign of terror came to an end on December 30th, 1999, but it was no thanks to the police. As mentioned earlier, Javed fulfilled his promise and had no reason to carry on. Much like all serial killers, he wanted the attention. Just days before his arrest, Javed wrote a letter addressed to the police and Daily Jang's chief news editor Kawar Naeem Hashmi, detailing his crimes in gruesome details. He even kept detailed records, including a 32-page journal that graphically described his murders. In fact, on December 30th, 1999, he walked into the offices of Daily Jang, making a full public confession of his crimes as the police came to arrest him. Vats of lost children. One of the most gruesome details revealed during Javed Iqbal's confession was his disposal of the bodies. Much like American serial killer Jeffrey Dahmer and Breaking Bad's Walter White, Pakistan's notorious serial killer was using large vats of hydrochloric acid to dump the bodies of his victims. The extremely corrosive chemical dissolved the bodies, erasing all remains of the 100 innocent souls from the world. Only 2 vats were found by police that contained human remains, strengthening the case against the serial killer. Conviction. There was a nationwide outcry against Javed Iqbal. The public, as well as authorities, wanted more than just a simple death penalty. According to reports, the judge in Javed Iqbal's case had a sinister punishment in mind. He ruled for Javed to be strangled with the same chain he used on his victims, his body to be cut up into 100 pieces, and his remains to be dumped in a vat of acid. Unfortunately, Javed had the last laugh, escaping his punishment. On October 8, 2001, he and his accomplice Sajid Ahmed committed suicide. The serial killer was found hanging by his neck in his jail cell. The story of Javed Iqbal leaves behind a legacy of pain and unanswered questions. How could a man become such a monster? Could the system have done more to prevent his crimes or capture him sooner? The families of his victims continue to grapple with their loss, and the broader community remains haunted by the realization that such evil could exist in their midst. As we close this dark chapter, we are reminded of the importance of vigilance, the need for a robust justice system, and the resilience of the human spirit in the face of unimaginable horror. Javed Iqbal's story is a stark reminder of the depths of human depravity, but also a call to action to protect the most vulnerable among us. If you found this story as compelling as it is disturbing, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more deep dives into true crime stories. Share your thoughts and feelings in the comments below. What do you think could have been done to prevent such a tragedy? Thank you for watching, and stay safe out there.